we're going to focus on how we can use mindfulness to improve organizational performance, the value of mindfulness in leadership, incorporating mindfulness in competitive training, how mindfulness and personal well-being are linked, and we'll do an experiential mindfulness exercise. So we know that mindfulness can help people at work. No doubt you've sort of seen it in schools, in sporting fields, social connections and relationships, developing leadership abilities. So we're going to focus here predominantly in sort of leadership in work and in well-being. The skill to be focused for a moment, to be really reflective and make decisions unburdened by private experiences. So mindfulness training and assessment is increasingly conducted at modern organizations. There's some research at Cranfield University, the School of Management, that effective meetings have several characteristics of mindfulness, where the best decisions are made when habitual responses are avoided and participants are alert and focused on the present moment, and contextual information is incorporated into the decisions. So being in that moment, being really self-aware. Mindfulness training facilitates psychological flexibility of employers and managers that can be linked to better resilience, decision-making, problem-solving, task performance abilities, enhanced emotional intelligence, and reduce defensive routines. So the research certainly suggests that. Also, what we can focus on is using mindfulness, observe thoughts and feelings, encouraging and practicing curiosity, promote self-care and autonomy, being able to learn from perceived failures, and promoting strategic valued action. So we live in a world where we rarely take time to just be in the moment. And it's really important that you recharge your batteries. You're more productive. And for many years, the emphasis, guys, has been around being productive, making sure you sort of time-based activities, where now we realize that recharging the batteries goes a long way towards more productivity. So both individuals and teams can develop and act in a more mindful way by maintaining an experiential presence, suspending beliefs, habits, focus on intentions and values, learning to have compassion for self and others, and exercising stress control, impulse control. So mindfulness training elements serve to extend the gap between stimuli and reaction. So for example, we have stressful events at work. It could be a phone call, it could be a meeting, it could be a presentation. And that sort of gap between stimulus and action or reaction. Now, what we're going to focus on here is not therapeutic in nature. So the idea is to not challenge anyone's cognitions and behavior, and no personal deficit is suggested. So just being with our thoughts. Mindfulness intervention is particularly useful in dynamic and complex contexts that highly competitive organizations often find themselves in. And now you're probably well aware of what's going on in the world. Things are even more competitive than they ever have been. For many years, the research suggests that mindfulness has been linked with performance. And although these organizations cannot avoid stress and adversity, they change their relationship with it through mindful approaches. So the idea here is, guys, that adversity will always be there, whether we like it or not. Adversity is out there, challenges. This year obviously has been a very, very challenging one for many people. Now, we can control, we can sort of focus on letting go, we can't control. And that's the sort of emphasis, guys, in being able to sort of control, we can, and sort of drawing a line and thinking, what can I control? What can't I control? What can I do about the things I can control? And what can I do about the things that I can't control? So the idea is our relationship between these events and stress. So rather than distinguishing between positive and negative experiences, the whole actual experience becomes proverbial, analytical sandbox. When an organization is clear about its most important values, it becomes possible to take effective action despite doubt and uncertainty. And think about your own organizational values. If you run your own business, if you're a coach, if you're working with somebody else, just think about what's important to you about your business. If you're working for yourself, are you running perhaps your own CAF, or maybe sales training, your offer, or you're working for a company, and sort of think about the organizational values. And what we're going to focus on this evening is helping you to be able to practice mindfulness. And we can make organizations more mindful by examining contextual factors at work that facilitate or hamper mindfulness task focus amongst workers. And I'm sure you can all agree, guys, that in certain work environments, they're not necessarily conducive to just being. And I suppose if you sort of said to your manager or your boss at work tomorrow, can we make some time to just be in the moment and practice being in the moment, that probably look at you, a lot of organizations, like you've come from a different planet, so to speak. And that's the whole idea, is to sort of understand how effective mindfulness is in terms of just being able to be in the moment and not sort of be carried away by the moment. So continuous distractions and mind wandering are two major problems in modern office life. So there's plenty of distractions out there, guys, in the world we live in today. Obviously, social media is a big deal, and sort of all these gadgets we've got, apps and messengers and all these things, really, of all the things that are going on in the world as well. Our focus of attention is generally pretty limited. We can generally only focus on one task at a time. And there's plenty of things out there that are going to distract you from what you're doing. You don't have to look too far for that. So the idea is to be able to be in the moment to give you the best chance to succeed. And people are overwhelmed by too many inputs, and their brains go into survival mode, leading to impulse judgment, reduced flexibility, limited creativity, increased frustration, and even hostility. So we see hostility in certain environments at times too, because one point of reference at the moment, by the way, is the way the brain works. We need to know when we're sort of faced with a task, we sort of need to know the duration of the task, the outcome, and the pathway, or at least the pathway and the outcome. And when you think about the way the world is going at the moment, certainly there's a lot of agitation, because obviously external factors are having a big impact on people's lives. And this is sort of spilling into work environment too. Obviously, our lives have changed dramatically based on what they were before. So there's some research done by Killingsworth and Gilbert, and they found that almost half the time employees were thinking about something other than what they were currently doing. And even, this was 2010, now probably even more so. The world's a changed place. There's so many things. I mean, I'm sure we've all been in situations where we've gone to a store and we've left our mask in the car, or or whatever, or someone's coughed, and maybe a year ago someone coughs in the supermarket, you don't think much of it, but now you kind of think, oh no. So these are things that have put us in hypervigilance. And I'm not sort of going to be contentious about what's right or what's wrong, and that's certainly not my area to comment on. But one thing I do know for sure is that obviously these factors have made a big impact on the way we live our lives. So mindfulness training increases awareness of these distractions and develops the mental fitness to maintain focus on current tasks. Not only does job performance benefit from mindfulness, participants training in mindfulness typically potentially experience improved job satisfaction, less emotional exhaustion, and leading to reduced turnover. So if there is a case for doing mindfulness in the work that you're in, then this is a case for it. There's plenty of research out there. And there'll always be people who say, well, mindfulness didn't address my challenge. And it's not going to address every challenge, and it's not for everybody. But generally speaking, mindfulness is relatively non-intrusive. You can have a go and you can sort of see what happens, which is sort of key. So we're not saying mindfulness is going to address all the challenges that, and I'm sure if you can write some of the challenges the organization faces now. There's plenty of them, and there's plenty of them that mindfulness isn't going to sort of have an impact as such, but it's bound to have noticeable results in terms of performance in general and retention, because you can focus on being in that moment. In addition to benefits in employee performance and well-being, a mindfulness attitude facilitates more effective leadership and proactive and ethical decision-making. So leadership's functions are key to organizational mindfulness. And this is sort of research as well, Vogus and Sutcliffe. So mindfulness is a big correlation guide to leadership. So you could make a case in point that leadership mindfulness is an important domain of organizational mindfulness. It has an effect on employer performance, well-being, and job satisfaction, as well as strength of interpersonal interactions at work. So some research guys for you, if you sort of go back to work and make a case for some sort of mindfulness in the workplace, we've seen it helps leaders build better relations with their employees and more in tune with them. And as a result, they're able to support the employees more so, resulting in more satisfied employers. And applying mindfulness skills are equally relevant in leaders' communication, negotiation. Arguably, they are able to better regulate emotions and distractions, which lead to superior outcomes. You'll be able to not sort of carried away with anything you might be triggered by. So when I train people, for example, who've got to do a press conference, and I teach them mindfulness. If I'm speaking to a manager, say, for example, a football manager doing a press conference, then I teach him or her mindfulness. The reason being is that it's very easy to get carried away by your train of thought. If someone, for example, says something that sort of triggers the limbic system, so to speak. So the idea is to, be able to regulate that. And obviously, if the manager loses his or her cool, then it has a big impact on the players. For example, they think, oh no. And this can be translated into business too. So mindfulness, organizational leaders, it affects employers' performance, because think of some of the best leaders that you've had, guys. Make a mental note of some of the best leaders that you've had, or if you are a leader yourself, you've done good leadership. It helps foster employees' psychological need satisfaction. In other words, their autonomy at work, their perceptions of competence and relationship quality with others at work. So you're sort of a lot more, self-aware as such. And think about the qualities, guys, of some of the leaders that you've worked with, managers. I can think of, football managers, for example, in business, also in academia, people who've been very mindful or in tune with that, because they themselves function more effectively and more attuned to core values, make mindful decisions that are less impulsive in reaction, and are not so much distracted by distressed and unexpected situations. So, you go into work and you hear that something's happened. There's not a great deal you can do about it. It's nothing really pressing, but just enough to sort of put you off. But you've got to make certain decisions. And obviously you don't want to be impacted by the feeling you've got from being cut up on the road, or perhaps, you're driving in and they changed tier restrictions where you are and you're frustrated, and that's not making light of it, because there's an impact on people where 1 week you can do one thing and then 1 week something else. And it's not undermining anything. It's just a point that these changes that happen quickly and that are happening around the world, as we sort of speak can have a big impact on people. And we really want to be able to be more calm when the curveball comes along. So by now you're wondering how a mindful leader should be and how you could become one yourself, which is no doubt why you've tuned in. So I'm giving you a little bit of theory. Well, from a research point of view, Aladina and Adams suggested that mindful leaders have the following traits and skills that make them especially effective in dynamic and competitive workplace. And these are things you can work on. It's work in progress. They're highly self-aware, transparent and open, embody values, seek a balanced perspective, demonstrate a high level of self-management, are socially aware, are emotionally intelligent, actively manage relationships, able to deal with multiple demands and constant connectivity, regulate and focus attention, communicate ideas and expectation, and encourage contributions, solve problems with kindness and curiosity. So if you think back to that leader that made an impact on your life, or think back to leaders who've made an impact on your life, and think about some of the traits that they had that relate to this. And I can think back to some of the great leaders and the great managers I've sort of worked with in sport and business, and directors of companies and people in academia, and they did embody a lot of these traits. And it's been work in progress for me as well to do that. We all have off days, but equally it's about being human and being the best we can be. And you're probably thinking now, well, the toughest job in the world, you could argue is probably the toughest job in the world, at least the most important job in the world, is being a parent. And you can think, okay, how mindfulness can, now this is another seminar for another day, from that point of view can be really useful too. But here we're focusing on leadership in the workplace. So in a mindful attitude, a leader is able to embody beliefs and values, create a positive and inspiring workplace culture by encouraging others to be an active part of that vision. So, okay, you've got that buy-in, you don't feel left out. And I'm sure you've all had situations, guys, when you felt perhaps left out of a situation or decision. And it's not great in terms of galvanizing the team. It's sort of working as a team. Everyone's a part of the vision. So mindfulness means to be always present and responsible. It encourages a state of awareness, openness to new information, and willingness to view situations from different perspectives, thereby using all the facts without prejudice to make meaning and to come to the most appropriate decision. So logically making a decision, the most logical decision that we can make in certain situations. And think, okay, we could do at the moment, you're probably wondering, with more mindful people in the field of politics, but I don't want to get political and contentious. But you can see that that sort of leadership, being really aware, and I'm not singling anybody out, just sort of generally speaking, a state of awareness, being open to information, and willing to view things from other people's perspective as well. And think about that, whether you do that or not, and be true to yourself and honest with yourself, and think about the staff that you work with, whether they do that, and sort of signpost you in the short time we've got how to develop that. So mindfulness and well-being, we rush through life constantly worrying about the past and future. And we all do that. We could solve that. We would have no need to sort of, we'd be good, we'd be perfect in society. We could all be in the moment, but we do. We have the brain and the way it's designed. We worry about the past, and the future does not contribute sometimes to feeling good about life. And we forget to experience the here and now. And that impacts our well-being. We're stuck in the past, especially in business, in work, and this happened, and the future, will I now have enough money to pay my staff? And will I have enough money to pay the bills? And these are real life issues. I'm not undermining and saying it doesn't exist. They certainly do, for sure. but they don't do our well-being any good. You know, how many of you, and we can sort of talk about this later because, you know, I'm sort of recording this for you. You go back over it, take work home. You know, you take it home, it affects your home life, it affects your social life. You think about what happened, and we'll have a job to go to on Monday, or all these sudden things, and it undermines that weekend, the time you've got with your children, if you've got children, or sports, or coaching, or doing other things as well. So just in summary, before we do some practical stuff, and I'll open for questions. When I open for questions, I won't record. I'll give you time to open. So mindfulness improves performance of individuals and teams in the workplace by focusing on present tasks and values and acting more thoughtfully with more compassion. Mindful leaders possess the ability to be self-aware, compassionate, communicate mindfully, embody values, hold multiple perspectives, eliminate distractions and clutter, and lead with openness and transparency. Enhance performance by focusing their attention to present actions, decisions rather than past mistakes and future goals, attuning their minds and bodies and lessening distraction, emotional stimuli, and intensifying their experiential learning. So I'm going to do an exercise, guys, now, and I've sort of gone through some theory. You're probably going to drift off if I carry on. So make yourself nice and comfortable, guys. And I've got this presentation, something I've done because I wanted to make sure that I could record it for you, and it was the only way, if people didn't want to be recorded, to manage to do that. So you can watch back over again if you need to, show people at work, whatever you want to do with it. So make yourself comfortable, guys, if you can. So make yourself nice and comfortable, okay? Either sitting, or if you prefer to lie down, you can. It's entirely up to you, but you can make a case in point that you can sort of sit in a chair comfortably with your feet on the floor, your back slightly straight, and just fixing your posture, your shoulders relaxed and neck relaxed, and just relaxing your jaw. And as you relax your jaw, and perhaps you can focus on a spot on the wall, or if you're comfortable and safe to do so, perhaps you can close your eyes. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to. But if you do prefer closing your eyes, you can do. And as you make yourself nice and comfortable, with a little bit of alertness, but nice and comfortable, nice and safe, acknowledge any feelings that are there, slowing down any agitation and anticipation, releasing any effort, any trying too hard for something special to happen. And just simply being, just giving yourself that space and time to rest and step out of time. Expanding your awareness to include the entire body, the room, the sounds. Using your breath as an anchor to bring you back to the present moment experience whenever you find yourself to being carried away by a train of thought. Now, focus on sensations in your body, or if you're more comfortable doing so, you can focus on a sound. And as you focus on the sound, you can get out of your own head and focus on breathing if you're comfortable doing so. And just notice your breath as you breathe naturally and normally. You can't take the last breath you can't take the breath you just had. You can't take the next one. The only breath you can take is now. Let go of events of the day. Just let them go. There's not anything you can do about many of the things unless it's something pressing you need to do. Just let the events of the day go and let the events of tomorrow go. Just be in the moment. Slow your mind down. Breathing nice and comfortable. And just letting your thoughts pass through, letting them pass through like a waterfall or flowing down a river. All these fragmented thoughts, thousands, not resisting them. And now breathe in air to areas of tension in the body. Perhaps your calf muscles, your quads, your tummy, your back, perhaps your feet, your neck, jaw. Just breathing in air to any areas of tension and let it flow. And if you're comfortable being aware of sensations, if not, you can be aware of sounds. Anything that in the past few days has been on your mind that you think has been unfair, allow yourself to experience the feeling that the memory of the situation brings with it. Or perhaps you feel you've been unfair to somebody else. And it's okay. Just be with it. Open to experience it without change or resisting. And notice any feelings in the body, any thoughts. Hold the thoughts. A bit like, for example, if you were to stub your toe, bump your elbow, and this too shall pass, and just hold those thoughts in the space of awareness and just look at the narrative. What is the story? Are you blaming someone? Is someone blaming you? Are you the victim? Is someone else the victim? Are you trying to change what happened? Is it a recurring theme? A pattern? Just holding that thought and explore the internal dialogue and see if you could hold them in your awareness in the same way as sensations in the body. Okay with not being okay. Just exploring the internal dialogue and see if you can hold them in your awareness in the same way as sensations in your body. And just aware, just noticing as they arise, pass through the mind and dissolve back into your awareness. Explore the relationship between the feeling, the thoughts that arise, and how this reflects on your body, sensations, what happens to you, strong feelings about the situation if you just stay with a flux of the body sensations. And observe the whole cascade as if you're watching a movie, fully present to what is going on, fully aware, but not taking it as entirely real, just the images. And the experience that pass through, the experiences that pass through the mind. Before we end this practice, just remind yourself that you can return to this mindfulness awareness whenever you are having a strong feeling during the day, particularly a stressful situation, an unpleasant personal or professional interaction. And instead of being carried away by the feelings and the stories that arise with them, just reconnecting with the body and breath and seeing what happens if you're just mindfully aware of this experience as it unfolds in real life and real time. You always have a choice, no matter how strong the experience. And just gradually in your own time, in your own pace, coming back to the here and now. And it might appear, even it feels like it's completely taking over you. It's always up to you to choose how to respond in moment by moment. We can experiment with that sort of mindfulness. So the beauty is, guys, I managed to sort of record that, and to be concerned, I haven't got anyone in the recording, which is why I sort of did it this way. I just felt that it'd be useful to be able to record this for you, because it's only a short time to cover a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of takeaways. Sometimes you've got to watch it twice or a third time, and you can pick up things as well. And I'll send the presentation too as well, so hopefully it can sort of potentially help you in your own journey in mindfulness for work and leadership and well-being, or complement what you're doing already anyway, or existing skills you have as well, which is key. So there's sort of if you needed any more distractions, here's a few more for you. My Twitter, Facebook, if you want to email me, you can. I'm more than happy to email you the presentation if you want to. I'll sort of fire that through for you. So in a moment, I'm going to stop the record so I can take questions. So I'm going to stop the recording in a moment, just so you can take questions. I really want to thank you for all joining. Hopefully you got a lot out of it, and you can sort of watch it again. I'm going to stop the recording for you, and we'll sort of take some questions.